Hey everybody, Tony D with a final video of the evening, a screenwriter's rant about a new Netflix movie. For those of you who haven't canceled your Netflix already, but I did want to talk about it. I think I'm probably going to cancel mine soon. I know I keep saying that. I haven't watched it. I'm just too lazy to actually do it. I really want to see the second season of F is for Family with Bill Burr. Such a good show. Anyhow, um, it's interesting that this movie's coming out now. It's called The Trial of the Chicago Seven. And I just watched the trailer, and I'm not going to play the trailer because YouTube kept flagging me for doing that. So I'll just going to clip through some of the stills, and you can watch it yourself. But the entire trailer has the chant from that riot or protest, whatever you want to call it. The whole world is watching. The whole world is watching. And so this is about the trial of the Chicago Seven, which includes Abby Hoffman, which is Sasha Baron Cohen as Abby Hoffman. And it's all very serious, which I found very interesting. And I also found very interesting is that they've decided to focus on this. And there's been lots of movies about this event and what happened in Chicago. But it's interesting that they're doing it now that Antifa is so in the news too, right? And so one of the lines in the movie or in the trailer, and it's like a setup. Here's the trial. They're getting ready for the trial. And it's from Aaron Sorkin. And it makes the hippies extremely sympathetic, and they were for good for most of this. And it makes the cops look incredibly ominous. You can see the Black Lives Matter type. Well, this was the Black Power symbol, the original sort of, the OG Black Power symbol. But they say in the trailer, and this is people burning draft cards, and okay. So this character, who I assume is one of the Black Panthers, says, Bobby's dead, MLK's dead. We tried it the peaceful way. Now we're going to try it, the violent way or our way or whatever. And it's clearly about, it's time to kick up the violence, which is exactly the sort of attitude a lot of Antifa guys have today. And that was a terrible, terrible strategic blunder on the part of these protesters. Because the moment they got violent was the moment the movement was done, essentially. Because now, and back then, the police had every reason to stop them because they were violent. And people got hurt and things happened. There's a guy taking down a picture of Nixon or putting it up. So it's very ominous. And the rioting, previously in other movies when you saw hippies rioting, it wasn't as ominous. This makes everything look extremely ominous. And, I met Abby Hoffman back in college. He and G. Gordon Liddy did a tour where they debated each other, and I of course was working on the comedy show, and we got access because we were students. We got access to Abby Hoffman and G. Gordon Liddy. Ostensibly, it was supposed to be to interview them, but really we wanted to put them in a comedy sketch. So we wrote comedy sketches basically giving them one line. So all we had to do was get them to say that. And G. Gordon Liddy kind of wouldn't cooperate. He just sort of grabbed the mic and said, watch our channel, which was WICB. Watch WICB tomorrow night or I'll break both your legs. And handed me the microphone back. But Abby, we actually had a sketch for. And Abby, we had a little more time with. And he was actually a really funny guy. And he reminded me of a lot of the hippies from that era, a lot of the old hippies. Only most of the old hippies had, by the 80s, by the time I was in college, they had gotten old, and they were more straight laced. They had gotten out of the life, if you will, and gotten jobs, and some of them had successful businesses and were quite rich, and we called them yuppies, right? But Abby was still a hippie. You could tell he was a hippie at heart. And when he came to the college campus, first off, he ended up banging one of the students there who I knew. She was in one of my classes, and he was just, you could just tell he was just living his life like a hippie, having fun. He was doing the debates, making money. He was partying. He banged this girl. I mean, he was a fun guy, instantly fun. From the moment I met him, I was like, this guy is right. And I could see why, back in the day, he must have gotten people to follow him around, because he was so much fun and he was full of energy, and even in the 80s he was. But this portrayal, and I'm only going by what I saw in this trailer. Now here he seems a little lighter, but it seems very, very serious. Well, even this is a bit serious, but to me, Abby was this hilarious guy. And this movie looks very dark, and it's obviously trying to draw the analogies between the protests of today and the protest then. And I think it's very different, because the protests then were about the Vietnam War, and it was about, they were sending young people to die in a pointless war. So the hippies really had a righteous cause. Get us out of the war. Stop us killing people. Now, they were very scatterbrained, and they also added a bunch of other nonsense to their protest often, just like a lot of peace activists. And I've said before, you'd go to a peace protest and it'd be like, hey, you here to stop the war? And I'd be like, yeah. And then they'd be like, great. And you want to give everybody free housing? And I'd be like, well, I didn't really sign on for that. And free college, of course, you want that? No, I don't want that. I'm just here to stop the war, please. And it would be a litany of socialist BS, essentially. And those protests, I believe, suffered from that as well. And just the fact that the left tends to be this disorganized rabble that's driven mostly by emotion. But their emotions in this case and their cause in this case was very unifying. It's one of the reasons, I don't know why my face is so itchy. One of the reasons I think Antifa just keeps lighting themselves on fire and S in the bed is because, their unifying thing is, we're going to tear down the state, which is A, unrealistic, B, not righteous in the least, and they're just, it's just a stupid idea. It's like a bunch of college students getting together and say, let's elect Fred president and let's start a campaign, and Fred isn't old enough to be president, and they don't have any money, and maybe the local news covers it and it's a fun LARP for a while, but it's totally unrealistic. And that's where I see Antifa and the MBLM and all these people now. I mean, just the fact that it's Antifa, BLM, that's two groups right there. You add the Occupy Wall Street guys who just had to cancel the siege. They named BLM, Me Too, and Extinction Rebellion in their flyer and left Antifa out for obvious reasons. But there are all these splinter groups, and that's the problem with the left. Everything gets splintered and atomized. They collectivize people and then put them in these groups, but in that process, they split everybody up. And Antifa did that too. They did it in the Chaz, and they've done it in other times. They've made spaces for only certain people of certain race, and then over here you can only do certain things of certain race, and it's just, it's not a practical, sensible thing beyond the fact that it's just racist to do. But back then they didn't have all that nonsense. They had a little bit of it, but not a lot. And they were righteous, They were into civil rights, but again, that was clear then. Civil rights was either about to happen or hadn't. I don't think it had. When did it happen? That was in the '60s. So it already happened by this point. But that was a clear delineation. There was real racism at that time. So their cause was just. The cause, so the comparison to now, for me, just doesn't work. Look how sad Sasha Baron Cohen and scared. I'm telling you, after meeting Abby Hoffman, he'd laugh at these guys. He was probably always laughing and totally fearless when he was younger. And even if you look at pictures of him, he's usually laughing and smiling, I think. So I don't know. This courtroom drama looks overly intense to me, and maybe not particularly accurate. And the final line here is, Sasha's being grilled, and the guy sort of pressures him to come forward with an answer quicker, and Sasha Baron Cohen says something like, "Give me a second, I've never been on trial for my thoughts." Which is totally something Abby would say. He was clever that way, I think, and but I think he would have been, impish about it, right? I think he would have been like, "Well, give me a minute. I've never been on trial for my thoughts." Like, I think that's the way he would have delivered the line. Instead, Sasha's like, "Give me a minute. I've never been on trial for my thoughts." Like he's pulling all the drama he can in it. And don't get me wrong, Sasha Baron Cohen, man, is he a good actor? He's not only a great comedian, and I think he's one of the funniest guys ever. And he said things that are political that I totally don't agree with, but man, can he act? He can act the S out of anything. So based on that alone, I think, I can watch pretty much any movie with Sasha Baron Cohen in it. That he's made the jump to serious movies doesn't surprise me at all. He's a really good actor. He's just really good. And he should be in serious movies. I mean, I love him in comedies, don't get me wrong, but he is so talented. I mean, when I saw him in, what the hell is it? The barber movie. It's the opera about the barber who kills people. What the hell was it called? Sweeney Todd. So he's in Sweeney Todd. Johnny Depp's in it. And Johnny Depp's an amazing actor too, right? And I thought, oh, Sacha Baron Cohen's in it. Well, that's interesting. He was the only guy in that movie, as compared to Depp, who actually, he drew you away from Depp. Depp, he's in a movie, he's often he's so good, he's riveting, right? But Sacha Baron Cohen is on that level, if not better. And, so watching him if you watch Sweeney Todd, Sasha is just amazing in it. I mean, his voice, his mannerisms, it's so on point. Just the acting craft that he brings to the table, I think, is worth watching, and no matter what he's in. And Aaron Sorkin's good too, but I can see what they're trying to do here. They're trying to make that analogy of the protests of the past with the protests now, and I would say it's not an apt analogy. It's really not. And granted, some nasty things happened back in the 60s, but at the end of the day, the hippies were fun. They were. They laughed at things. That's what kept them going for so long. They were into peace and love, man. Peace and love. The Antifa guys have no sense of humor whatsoever, in my view. They are nasty, horrible human beings with no sense of humor whatsoever. They're not funny. The hippies were hilarious. So, they were annoying, but I think they were hilarious. Their deal was, oh, we gotta, tweak the squares, man. Well, let's do something weird and far out. The Antifa guys are like, F you, listen to me or we'll burn your house down, basically. So, yeah, I can see what he's doing here. Would I watch this? Only because Sasha Baron Cohen's in it. If anybody else was in it, I'd be like, nah, I don't need to see this. Um, do I think it'll be good? Again, I don't, I think it smacks to me of over dramatization of something that, already was dramatic. Even the lighting in this whole thing, it's so dark. Like when did they have the trial in the evening? Look how dark this set is. It just looks, very ominous. But I mean, the cast sounds amazing. I mean, you got Frank Langella, and again, you got let's see. I'll play a little of just the credits. Sasha Baron Cohen, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's very good. Michael Keaton, was that Michael Keaton? I think it was. Yeah, it was Michael Keaton. Frank Langella. I don't know. Oh, Jerry Strong. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I think it'll be worth your time to watch from strictly in terms of a production and a craft. But I wouldn't watch this and say, oh, this isn't. I already question the historical take on this. I just because I think the tone is wrong. Just from this trailer, I feel like the tone is too ominous. Anyhow, that's my rant. We'll see you tomorrow.